Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of my podcast, The Eidolon Wall, where I talk about all things Final Fantasy. And this month, this month in February, because of Valentine's Day, I'm going to be talking about love in Final Fantasy. I'm going to talk about how love has become a core part of the series. Love, romance, brotherly love, the love between friends, any sort of love that the sort of love that can blossom from strife and hardship and just journeying together. And the origins, no, not origins, but the love can be first seen in Final Fantasy II, where you've got the sisterly love of Maria, the sisterly love Maria and her sisterly love for her brother Leon, because in Final Fantasy II, Leon gets separated from them and he joins the Emperor. He joins the Emperor as their enemy, but despite all this, Maria still strives to try and save her brother, try and bring him back to the side of light, and to try and save him from his darkness, showing that she has a sisterly love for her brother that does not that isn't stopped by any strife or challenge. She constantly tries to rescue her brother, and you find a lot of love like this throughout the series through the party members, with many party members, forming close bonds and becoming good friends. As the games go on, they become closer friends and they form bonds of love. Uh, and in other clear examples as well, like Final Fantasy IV, you've got Cecil and Rosa who are clearly in love, but they don't express it. They don't really express it. They act more like friends. It's only until later in the game where they start, realizing that they do love each other, and eventually end up getting married as Cecil becomes the king of Baron, and Rosa his queen. And even a bond of love between friends as well, with Kane and Cecil, where again but they're enemies, but they're still both treasured friends to each other. They with Kane even with Kane even breaking through Gomez's brainwashing to fight alongside Cecil and the gang. Apologies, I keep pausing the video. I am yawning. I am re-recording this because unfortunately my VODs didn't download of the episode 3. And then and the bonds of love in the series as well. They don't they, obviously they continue on through the series with something like Final Fantasy V, for example, where you've got the sisterly love of Faris and Lena, where Faris and Lena, they were raised apart. Lena was raised in the kingdom of Tycoon, whereas Faris grew up among a pirate crew, eventually becoming their captain. Of course, Faris didn't know she was a princess because she didn't remember she was a princess, and she was also dressing up as a man because the pirates, there wasn't really any women pirates. Okay, apologies, was just getting a drink, a bit of coffee to help wake me up. But yes, as I was saying, because the pirates are generally all male, Faris does have to dress up as a male. But when she does meet Lena and she discovers that Lena is her sister, her sisterly love for Lena does resurface. It resurfaces and her and Lena start getting closer as sisters should. Just shut my door. Yeah, they start getting closer again as sisters normally should, and thus becoming very, very close by the end of the game. And it's not even with human love as well, because in the game, uh, Faris does have a kind of friendly love for a sea creature called Sildra. Yeah, sea creature called Sildra, who is Faris's closest friend while she was a pirate. And yeah, and it just shows that it just shows that love doesn't have to be between just two people. It can be between a beast and a friend, and a human and a person. It can be a very powerful thing. And of course, love continues even more for the series. Like you got Final Fantasy VI being a key example of love where a lot of the party members have love in some shape or form. You've got Locke, no, you've got Celis who learns, her and Locke fall in love. You've got Terra who loves the kids that she adopts later in the game when parties split up. You know, Shadow loving his dog, even though he doesn't show it. You can tell he cares for him. Sabin and Edgar loving each other, because they're brothers and they'll die for each other. But of course, the saddest one, of course, being Locke, who his the woman he loved, Rachel. The woman he loved, Rachel, ended up in an accident because of him and lost her memory, not remembering that she loved him. Um, and it go and Locke's whole journey in six is for so that she can is for so that he can bring back her memories and try and bring back her memories and try and help her live as as she should have lived. Um, we're happy, happy of our memories. Whether he is in the picture or not, he doesn't care. He's not bothered because that's her choice. But yeah, it just goes to show that love is can be a driving factor. Again, with Locke trying to, with Locke trying to, with Locke trying to, find the Phoenix Magicite so he can restore Rachel's memory. But of course, him eventually falling in love with Celis, and even the play in the game that Celis is a part of is a play about two lovers called Maria and Drago. And it's a very heartfelt play. But it just also goes to show that love, love can take many forms, and again, it can be a driving factor. Um, even in some games where love isn't that obvious, like you've got Final Fantasy VII. Now you've got so many people in the Final Fantasy VII community constantly arguing Cloud or Tifa, Cloud or Aerith, Tifa and Aerith. I don't know. I mean, I don't pay attention to. I don't listen to any. I don't listen to the shipping wars. I like Tifa with Cloud. That's my opinion. That's how I feel. That's it for me. I don't care. I mean, fair play to other people if they have their opinion. But even in Final Fantasy VII, the bonds of love aren't actually seen that very clearly until we get to the death of Aerith, where it's at this point the party are starting to form those bonds, and it's mostly because of Aerith's death that they realize that they are friends, they are close, they have each other. They're more than just companions or party members. They are friends. Even Vincent Valentine, who doesn't really show emotion, feels love towards his comrades, even if he doesn't show it. He stays with them. He stays by their side. He's resolved to fight alongside them because of their bonds of friendship. And going to what I said about Cloud and Tifa as well, like, you know, using the ship that feels right for me personally as an example. You got Cloud and Tifa, where Cloud is going for all of this. Cloud is going for all of this, all this turmoil in his head. He doesn't. He has an alternate reality in his head where he doesn't know the truth of what actually happened in Nibelheim. He's got a skew. Well, he knows the truth, but he's got a skewered truth, because of his experiences in Nibelheim. And out of love and concern for him, Tifa doesn't tell him the truth because she doesn't want to do him more damage. She is worried about what it could do to him. And this shows that love can be cruel sometimes. Love can be cruel, love can be mean, love can be having to make the harsh decisions, decisions that don't affect just you but will affect someone you care about. It shows that love can be, again, it can be happy, it can be sad, it can be cruel, it can be hurtful, but in the end, it can be stemmed down to the fact there to just feelings of love in some shape or form. Again, with Tifa, it's obvious she loves Cloud. She loves Cloud. She sees him more than a childhood friend, but she's so unsure about, because of Cloud's memories and what he remembers being different. She's so unsure about what she should say to him, how she should go about it. Should she tell him the truth? Um, and it's her love for Cloud that basically stops her from from trying to, from trying to tell him the truth and possibly damage his view of the events that happened, and possibly end up damaging his psyche more. Um, and then it's not even just that as well. Like you've got like Barrett loves Marlene, his adopted daughter. Like she's obviously not his daughter. His real daughter. She's the daughter of his best friend who he thought had died in Corel when Shinra attacked, and when he lost his arm. But despite not being her father, he takes care of her. He looks after her. Like he treats her like his own flesh and blood. And as you could see in the game, his bond of love with Marlene, where he at first, you first see Barrett. He's gruff. He's rude. He's gruff. He's abrupt. He's very no nonsense leader. But as soon as he sees Marlene, and even in the remake as well, even in remake, and Rebirth, you can see how much he loves Marlene. You can see how much he really cares for her. Because again, he goes from being that gruff, abrupt, rude, rough around the edges leader to a doting father. Like he sees Marlene and he becomes a softie. He becomes a doting father. His attention is just on her. He wants to make her smile, wants to make her laugh. Like, and it's a great example of how bonds of love can be. Again, with where it's him seeing her, Marlene, as his daughter, or it's Cloud, it's Tifa having feelings for Cloud and not and wanting to help him through his problems, although even though she can't, or she's worried about it. And love in this, and this is a good example of how, well, not a good example, but it's an example of love. A love can be a good story force, a good story point. Of course, we also have Final Fantasy VIII, for example, as well. Eight isn't exactly as obvious. You've got Squall and Renoa. There's clearly some spark there. Renoa's constantly trying to push Squall out of his shell. Like she's trying to push Squall out of his shell. Trying to get him to open up. And as they go through the game, Squall does start to open up, as he interacts with her, as she helps him see a new way of life, a new way to look at the world, a more happier way. She starts to help him broaden his horizons. And of course, this means Squall does end up, of course, falling in love with her. He doesn't want to admit it at first. He doesn't admit it to himself at first, but he does end up falling in love with her. And it's through this love that he like when she becomes a sorceress, he is even prepared to take on the world to protect her, with the famous line, if all the world should become, I think I'm paraphrasing here. I think I remember it wrong, but if all what was it? But yeah, so I just looked up the quote again. But yeah, it said, no matter what, Squall even says to her, no matter what happens, even if the world becomes your enemy, I'll be your knight. And it's through the love that he's gained for Renoa, the love that has grown for Renoa, that he's even willing to become the enemy of the world to protect her. He is willing to fight against the world he knows, the world he grew up in. He is determined to fight against it, if it means, if it he's determined to fight against it if it means he can protect Renoa, showing that despite his wall of aloofness, of not wanting people in, not wanting to show feelings, Squall does end up falling for Renoa and getting love for her. And it's his love for her that helps him see the world in a new light. It's his love for her that helps him see that life isn't what he think. It's not every man for themselves. It's not care about your own problems. It's that people can help each other and people can be there for each other, and it's not a bad thing. And Final Fantasy VIII uses this love quite well with Squall's growth and even Renoa's growth, where she stops being a brat. I'm just gonna say it. She stops being an impulsive brat, because that's how I see Renoa. I'm sorry, Renoa fans, but I see Renoa as an impulsive brat, who doesn't really have a plan. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, and it even helps Renoa grow to where she starts being a bit more serious, especially when she becomes a sorceress and she gets, she stops, she loses her smile and starts being a bit more afraid of what's going to happen. But it's her love for Squall and their love for each other that helps them keep going forward. It helps them keep going forward and to try and face the challenges of Final Fantasy VIII that is going to be put towards them. And it's not even Squall, not just Squall and Renoa as well. Sorry, I got itchy nose. It's not even Squall and Renoa as well. You have Squall's parents. You have Squall's parents, Laguna and Rain. Laguna and Rain Loire. Because when Laguna first meets Rain, he washes up in a small town called Windhill, where Rain is living with a young girl called Eidolon. And as as Laguna lives in this town, he starts to bond with Rain. She acts like she can never fall in love with someone like him. She acts very, tsundere, like, oh, I couldn't fall in love with someone like him. No, he's this, he's that. Um, and I, yeah, no, and but eventually Laguna does end up winning her over. She does slowly fall for him. And they end up getting married. He ended up proposing to her, in a very beautiful scene, by the way, under the night sky. He end up, he ends up proposing to her. She says yes, and we find out that she's pregnant with Squall. It was never actually confirmed. It was never truly confirmed until into recent years that Laguna is Squall's father. Squall never finds out. He never finds out who his father is. As far as I know, he never finds out. Never finds out who his mother is as well. He most likely figures it out. Um, but if he does figure it out, it's never been shown. But basically, yeah, and Laguna and Rain, yeah, they fall in love, and of course their love has a natural outcome that any romantic love may end up having. They have Squall. Rain gives birth to Squall. Unfortunately, I believe she dies in childbirth. I believe she dies in childbirth. Um, I believe she dies in childbirth, and I'm not completely sure what happened. All I know is it's not really said, but it's clear. But I think Laguna leaves them in an orphanage to alone and Squall in an orphanage. I think it's so he can try and um I can't remember what it is. I have to look into it again. But yeah, I digress. The point is, Laguna and Rain have a love which, again, leads to Squall's existence. The protagonist of the game leads to his existence, and it and Laguna's love for Rain, and well, not even just that, because it's meant that's not mentioned until later. But Laguna's love for his adopted daughter alone, that's one of the driving forces of the game. Because Laguna's entire during the Laguna segments, like I think for two, maybe yeah, for three of the segments, I believe three of the Laguna segments. Um, Laguna, the driving force of those segments is for Laguna to find alone, to rescue alone. Um, yeah, to rescue alone. And he goes to like the ends of the earth trying to find her, and even ends up going to the invisible city Esfar, where he eventually becomes the president of Esfar. Um, and yeah, it's his love for his adopted daughter alone which drives him to keep on going forward. Again, I'm not sure if Laguna is aware of Squall's existence. Maybe he is. I'm not sure. I'll have to do some more research into it. Apologies, was taking a sip of my coffee. Um, but yeah, I had to do some more research into it again because I haven't played Final Fantasy in a while, and it's not one that I know massively about. But um, but yeah, that love for his adopted daughter drives Laguna to keep going forward and to even incite a rebellion in Esfar against its leader, its sorceress leader Adele. Um, eventually locking her up and shoving her into space. But again, I digress. Um, And yeah, and the love doesn't stop there as well, because Alone is his adopted daughter. This essentially means that Squall is Alone's little brother, adopted, but but regardless, little brother. And throughout his childhood, Squall really loved Alone. Like, he clung to her. He always wanted to be by her side because he was a scared, timid kid at the orphanage that they stayed at. He was a scared, timid kid. Yeah, he was a scared, timid kid, and he kept by Alone's side because he didn't want to be alone. He didn't want to feel alone. He had no one else. He felt like he had no one else. And then of course, Alone left the orphanage, and Squall was all alone. And his love for Alone basically made him retreat inside himself and become the stoic protagonist that we play as in the game. Because, and again, it shows that while love can be a very good driving force for a character's development and for a core of their character, it can also hurt them. It can build them up. It can build up in both happy ways and sad ways, but all culminate in their character being a great character. And of course, with Final Fantasy VIII as well, there's a lot of love in Final Fantasy VIII. There's a lot of love in it. So, and I'm gonna try and talk about all the games, or at least ones I do know that have love in it. Just because give you guys a good idea of how it's gone through the series. And yeah, because and even in Final Fantasy VIII as well, with Final Fantasy VIII still, the in the orphanage as well, you have the members of the party. You have the members of the party apart from Renoa. You got Squall, you got Quistis, Cell, Irvine or Irvin. I think I can never pronounce his name. Irvin, Selphie. You got Cipher, who isn't a full protagonist. Um, they all grew up and they all grew up in the orphanage as kids together. And despite not having memories of their times in the orphanage, they still have that bond of love to each other, where as friends and basically family, where even years later in Garden, they still radiate to each other. They still radiate to each other. They still they feel that connection of each other, and they quickly become friends again when they meet up when they meet up in their late teens. um and it goes to show that love can also like in the Final Fantasy series, love can also transcend lost memories, because whereas the memories will be lost, the feelings that those memories invoked will not be lost. Again, like how how, for example, going by Quistis felt love for Squall. In Balam, when they were both in Balam Garden, she thought it was actual. She loved him. She had a crush on him, but it was actually her sisterly love for her younger sibling, poking through. And so it wasn't romantic love. It was sisterly love. She saw him as a younger brother, just like she did in the orphanage. And again, like I said, it shows that love can love can transcend love can it can it again with them, their memories can be lost, but the feelings those like I said the feelings that those memories invoked will not be lost. And again, that's why they still have that love, even though they can't remember their time at the orphanage until later in the game. But yeah, and so there's definitely some love in the Final Fantasy VIII series, and even a surprising one, which I won't admit, this got me as a kid. Headmaster Sid, the headmaster of Balam Garden, his wife is the sorceress Adia, the antagonist for the first part of the game, for the antagonist for disc 1 and part of disc 2. Is sorceress Adia is his wife, brainwashed by Ultimecia, the sorceress from the future. And despite the fact that she's committed atrocities under Ultimecia's control, despite the fact that she's not the same woman he knew, Sid still loves his wife. He still loves his wife, and his love for her even goes to the point where he's willing to agree to an assassination attempt. He's agreeing to yeah, he is willing to agree to an assassination attempt. I think he agreed to it. I might be wrong, but an assassination attempt was made on Dia's life. Um, And if Sid did agree to this, then I can only surmise that it's purely for the fact that he loves his wife so much that he knows how much of a kind person she is. He knows that she would rather die than keep hurting people. And again, it shows that love can drive us to make the hard choices that we need to make in life. But a hard choice like that again is done out of love because, like I said, he was the one who knew Adia the most. He was the one who knew how kind Adia was the most, and knew that she wouldn't want to keep on hurting people. But well, excuse me. But yeah, it just shows that love definitely can be a driving force for story in Final Fantasy. And so yeah, and it's not even the characters, the characters as well. Even one of the summons, the GF, the Guardian Forces in 8. Um, One of them are two Minotaurs called Sacred and I think Sacred and Minotaur, I think it is. Um, and basically, they literally had their attack that when you summon them is literally called Brotherly Love. Um, and yeah, and it's interesting with the fact that like the smaller one throws up the bigger one into the air for the attack, and showing a lot of trust to him. It's a small thing, but again, you can see you can see a lot of love with it. And going with what I said about Alone as well, and the adopted her being adopted by a Laguna. The other kids were adopted as well. Like Zell, he was adopted by the Dink family and Balam, and they love him like a son. I don't know what happened to Quistis, but Irvine, he Irvin, I don't know, Irvin went to Galbadia Garden. He was in Galbadia Garden. Same with Selfie and Trabia Garden. So despite having being orphans and that, they still found love. And again, but that urge to keep the people they love safe is what made them go into the future to fight Ultimecia, because they wanted to keep the world they love safe. So Final Fantasy VIII is definitely one of the games that has a lot of love in it. Even if it's not obvious, it has a lot of love in it. And then of course we reach to my favorite game in the series and my favorite game of all time, Final Fantasy IX. Now, to start off with, we're going to go with an obvious one. Dagger and Zidane. Dagger and Zidane. They start out as Zidane. Dagger hires Zidane to kidnap her. To kidnap her. To get her away from Alexandria Castle so she can find out. So she can get away from her mother, who is kind of war mad. She's kind of war hungry. She's power hungry. And as they go through the game, and they have these adventures with her, and they have these adventures with each other, and Zidane helps Dagger see life outside the castle. He helps her relax, helps her speak less formally, helps her enjoy life. See new sights, get new experiences, new feelings. As he helps her go through all these. And they go through the story of the game with Zidane, rescuing her from her mother Bran again, to finding to going to the outer continent with her, to finding out that she, being with her, finding her true home. Zidane goes through all of this, and they start to form a bond. They start to see their journey as they can't do their journey without each other. They can't do their journey without each other. And there's even a scene. There's even a scene in the game which highlights this as well. Like highlights just how much they care for each other and how much they've grown to love each other. Where Dagger is sat in a boat underneath her home of Medain Sari. And when Stan goes to find her, he hops on the boat and that. They talk for a bit, and she asks him a question. She asks him a question that she's clearly been wanting to ask since their adventure began. Why did you come with me? Now, Zidane could give some half-assed story. Oh, yeah, I wanted it for the adventure. Oh, to see what would happen. Blah, 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 blah. He could have given some half-assed adventure. But instead, what he does is he tells her a story about an explorer named Ibsen and his friend Colin, who journey to travel to Ibsen's home. And in the story, Zidane ends the story with Ibsen giving Colin the same question that Dagger gave to Zidane, and Zidane's answer is the same as Colin. And what Zidane says, yeah, what Zidane says is a clear example of how much he's grown to love Dagger. Even if they won't say it outright, uh, you can tell by how he responds how much he loves Dagger and how much he will go to the ends of the earth for Dagger. And what he responds with is simply because I wanted to go with you. And just that sentence, just that sentence. Sorry, drink coffee again. But yeah, Sedan responds. Yeah, yeah. So like I said, she she asked that question. He says the story about the play, and yeah, again, he answers the same way Colin does in the story. He answers with only because I wanted to go with you. And those eight simple words, show how much Sedan loves Dagger and how much he's grown to love her over the course of their adventure. And and he is ready to follow Dagger into hell. He's ready to follow Dagger into hell, to a different world, to the ends of the universe. He is to into memory itself. He has no problems following Dagger into even memory itself, to even the hill of despair where life and death meet. He has no problems because he loves Dagger and he wants to and simply because he wants to go with her. And again, this shows that love can be a driving force. Like some people say this is obsessive. Maybe it's stupid. And, Stan could have walked away because it wasn't. There was no reason for him to. But he stuck with her because she was his friend, and they fell in love. They fell in love. Yeah, they fell in love. And yeah, like yeah, again, it became a driving force, and even to the point where in the final scene of the game, Dagger makes a choice, an important choice, in the final cutscene in the game, because a year after they defeat Kuja and they save the world, so the crystal and all that, Zidane returns to Alexandria, surprising Dagger. And when she sees him, she runs down from her audience balcony, from her balcony where she's watching the play. She runs down, but in the process, when she gets outside, she loses her pendant on the floor in the crowd. She stops and stares at it, obviously hesitating. But instead of going picking it up, because her pendant was one of the driving forces of the game, for the early game, where her mother trying to get her hands on it. But instead of picking up something that's precious to her, she turns around and she runs and she jumps into the arms of the man she loves. She jumps into the arms of the man she loves, and she cries and she hugs him, and it's a great scene. And again, it shows just as how the love that they grew for each other propelled them forward. They propelled them forward, kept them going, even when times looked uncertain. And the last conversation they have before the game ends, also showcases this love as well. Where Sedana, I think it's Dagger asks, "How did you get back? How did you get back?" And Sedan responds with, "I sang your song," and then Dagger just responds with, "Our song." Because Dagger has sung us many times in the game. Dagger has sung a song called "Melodies of Life," that Sedan has found beautiful, and and again, it's basically became their song, because every time Dagger has sang it, Sedan has been there in some. He has been there to hear it, and yeah, and it basically has become their song, because it is the song of basically their love, and because again, Melodies of Life, Sedan has helped Dagger see life outside the castle, and her life has changed because of it. And it's not even just Sedan and Dagger as well. You've got Freya and Sir Fratley as well. Again, a different kind of love, a tragic love, because Freya and Sir Fratley were in love during the height of Bermesia. During the height of Bermesia's civilization, Freya and Sir Fratley were in love. And Sir Fratley went out into the world to train to get stronger because he knew that he alone didn't have the strength to protect Bermesia, so he had to go and get stronger. Unfortunately, during his adventures, it's never explained how, but during his adventures, he loses his memory. He gets amnesia and loses all memory of Bermesia, his time as a dragon knight. He loses memory of Freya, and when Freya finally meets up with him, this revelation that he does not even the man she's dreamt endlessly about, the man she searched for 3 years, doesn't remember her. It's tragic. It breaks her heart. It breaks her heart. And again, it's another form of love. It's tragic love. It's love that can bring sadness, but she takes solace in the fact that at least she knows he's alive. At least she knows that he is alive and he is at least sort of well, despite not having his memories. And she resolves herself to that fact of, at least I know he's alive. That's good enough for me. And at the end of the game, during the credits and in the game, I believe Fratley does get his memories back, or at least his feelings for Freya do return, because in the credits of the game, they are seen sitting on a fountain in Bermesia, and they're embracing. And he says that he loves her. They love each other, and again, it goes to show that it goes to show like in Final Fantasy VIII, love does, like, while the memories can be erased, the feelings that those memories invoked cannot be easily erased, and it's a very beautiful example of a kind of love, the tragic love. and and there's, and again, like with Final Fantasy VIII, there's also other forms of love. You have Sid's love for his wife Hilda. Because he cheated on her. He cheated on her. He met a woman at the pub. He cheated on her. She turned him into an oglop. She turned him into an oglop out of anger and revenge, and she flew off in his airship. Um, and yeah, and which goes to show love does hurt. And he did hurt her. But despite everything, um, Sid, they do reunite when Sid's now a frog, instead of an oglop. They do reunite, and Sid, you find out that Sid never stopped loving Hilda. He knows that he made a stupid ass mistake, but he never stopped loving Hilda. And when they do meet up, and he promises that he will never ever cheat on her again, and she turns him back to human, she still loves him. She still loves him. She still, she's willing to give him a second chance, and yeah, and well, he follows up with that. He keeps to that second chance. He doesn't do it ever again. Um, but yeah, again, it's one of those things where love, it's a kind of love where, yeah, Sid fucked up. He messed up big time by cheating on her. But despite all that, Hilda loved him so much that she gave him a second chance, and he proved himself with that second chance. His love for her was like, right, I'm never doing this again. Like, he didn't care. He didn't care. Like, he's not bothered. He wasn't bothered that he wasn't bothered that that she stole his airship. He wasn't bothered that she was, well, he was a bit bothered by he was bothered by the transformation, but it wasn't at the height of his mind. When he first saw Hilda again after so long, his first thought wasn't change me back. It was, are you okay? And again, it shows that love can be strong. Love cannot die no matter the situation. And and when he does get changed back again, they embrace, and their love is stronger because of it, and it's a good example of how love can grow through strife. And not only that as well, but at the end of the game, they actually adopt Aiko, the little party member who's like 6 years old. They actually adopt her as a princess of Limblum, and it's a very sweet thing because then they give Aiko that thing that she's lacking, a maternal and parental love that she doesn't have because her grandfather passed away. I believe a year before the events of the game. But yeah, like so even like parental love, which they then give to Aiko, can be seen heavily in the game, and it can help be a great thing for a character's growth. Apologies for answering a quick message that someone sent me. But yeah, they eventually they adopt Aiko, and she gets the parental love that she gets the parental love that she's been missing since her grandfather died. Um, and yeah, and again, like different forms of love in the game as well. Like a character called Quan, who is the same. He's the same tribe as Kina. He's a Q. So he's the same tribe as Kina. Even looks like him as well, actually. And yes, I call Kina him because the game's files list him as male, so I call it Kina him. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, Quan finds Vivi. He finds Vivi a year before the game. Yeah, before the events the game starts. And a year before the game starts, and he originally he was going to eat Vivi. He was going to eat Vivi, but I think he realized that Vivi can't be eaten. Like he's not good. He didn't taste good. He not good food. Um, and and so he raises Vivi over the year. And he raises Vivi over the year, and he grows to love Vivi like his own grandson. He grows to he grows to love Vivi like his own grandson, and he helps Vivi learn. He helps Vivi learn about life, because Vivi starts off as a soulless black mage. Well, not soulless, but he isn't really aware. He doesn't know anything about the world, because he's a prototype of the black mages. But Quan helps him start to he helps teach him about the world and that, and he grows to love Vivi. And there's a scene in the game later where Kina, Vivi, and Kina's mentor Quan goes no Quan or Quan Quail goes to Quan's dwelling, and you see the spirit of Quan there, and then it's in the scene where Kina and Quan talk, and Vivi then comes in, and you can see the love for Quan. You can see the love Quan has for Vivi in his interactions with Vivi. He says, "Vivi, you no grow at all." But then he then says to Kina, he then explains to Kina and Quail that Vivi is the reason. Vivi is the reason. No, Vivi is the reason why Quan changed so much. He is the reason why Quan grew like he did and was able to manifest as a spirit like that. Because through teaching Vivi things about the world, Vivi's innocence helped Quan realize things about the world he didn't realize. And it helped him see with more, because Vivi saw the world of wonder. He was still learning about the world. He saw the world through eyes of wonder. Vivi, Vivi helped Quan grow his imagination, and Quan was able to reach a level of gourmand that no one thought possible, using imagination to taste food. And he owes it all to Vivi. And the way he says this, he says it to Vivi and explains that. You can see the love and gratitude he's got for Vivi, where he loves Vivi like his own grandson, and he even says goodbye to him as he fades away. And it just shows that even someone like Vivi, who was originally had no emotions, even someone like Vivi can learn to love. And Vivi does learn to love. He loves his grandfather, he loves his friends, Zidane, Dagger, Steiner, and and he grows to love. So love in Final Fantasy 9, love definitely it can make the most cold-hearted people, the most emotionless people, find their emotion and find a reason to smile and a reason to laugh, a reason to feel warm, and it definitely does that for Vivi. So love is definitely a strong force in the series because of stuff like that, especially in 9. And even with 9 as well, you also have like Steiner, for example, as well. Steiner, at first, he doesn't. It seems like he loves his country, and he does. He does love his country. He's got, because of his love, he's got that loyal to his country. But there's a normal, like the normal type of love, the romantic type of love Steiner does feel. He just doesn't realize it, and that is for the female knight Beatrix, where they're rivals. They were constantly battling for they're constantly battling, trying to one up each other. Steiner often losing because Beatrix is just more refined. But yeah, and but for all these years, they do build up feelings with each other. They just don't ever want to really. They don't ever acknowledge them. It's not until a certain mishap with a mislaid poem that Steiner and Beatrix soon start to realize their feelings for each other. With Steiner, not long after, as they're fighting to protect Alexandria, Steiner says to Beatrix that he wants to protect Beatrix. He wants to protect Beatrix. He wants to keep Alexandria safe. He wants to keep Dagger safe, but most of all, he wants to keep Beatrix safe. And this surge of emotions puts him in trance. This surge of emotion puts him in trance. And again, it's another example how love can make us stronger. The willingness to protect can make us stronger. It's like an expression I once heard, a figure of speech I once heard. Only when we have something truly precious to us do we become genuinely strong, and that is what happens to Steiner. He loves Beatrix to the point where he grows exponentially in strength in that battle because of trance, because of his feelings for Beatrix. And even at the end of the game, Beatrix is about to leave Alexandria because she says her duty is done. She has to hang up her sword. Steiner stops her and says, "I want to protect Alexandria with you by my side." He basically says that he wants her by his side. And the last actual like scene in the game, the last actual scene with characters in it and not just words, is Steiner and Beatrix hold up her sword as it shines in the his hand is over hers as they hold up her Save the Queen sword, and and as it shines in the sky, like in the night, in the day sky, in the sun, they smile at each other, and it's like you can tell that they've realized their love for each other. They've realized what they mean to each other. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing because it's love. It also means love can be a culmination of the journey, and hell, it's even Steiner's love for even Steiner's, not even just at the end of the journey. Steiner's love for his country, his love for his kingdom, the kingdom of Alexandria, the kingdom that he calls home. His love for it drives him to go forward in the game, even though his loyalty is coming into question because he starts learning to think for himself as he discovers Bran is a bit power hungry. Despite his love for Alexandria causes him to question himself and to think, am I really doing what is right for Alexandria, or am I doing what's right for myself? And love can definitely it shows that love can make us ask the questions of ourselves that we normally wouldn't ask. And this is an integral thing for Steiner's character growth in the game. His love for Alexandria is making him question his loyalties to the queen, to either the queen or the kingdom itself. And it's a very powerful thing. It's a very powerful thing. Of course, moving on, and not even that as well. Like even Zidane and Kuja, they have a sort of weird love for each other as well. When they find out they're brothers, they have a sort of weird love for each other. Like Kuja still wants to destroy the world. He still wants to end the world because it's not going to have him in it. But after they beat Kuja, Zidane has all the right to walk away. He's got every right to walk away and go, nah, I'm done. We beat him. I'm going off. But instead, he goes back for Kuja. He tries to say he says that he's just got to know. He's got to know if he's still alive. But as he speaks to Kuja down there, and Kuja tells him that they have a heart to heart, where Kuja is actually glad that Zadane's friends got out safely, and Zidane even admits to Kuja that if he had been in his position, he would have been in the enemy of Gaia. They have just a brotherly little conversation. Like Kuja does pass away, but they have that brotherly conversation where in that moment, they have some brotherly love for each other. They genuinely have some brotherly love for each other. It's not obvious, but you can tell that they feel something for each other, and it's a very beautiful thing, because this goes shows that love can bloom you on the battlefield, and it doesn't have to be romantic love. It can be brotherly love. Of course, and obviously Final Fantasy IX is a big example of love in the series. But we've also got Final Fantasy X, for example, as well, where another key concept of love is, well, you've got Tidus and Yuna. You've got Tidus and Yuna. As the game goes on, they eventually start, and then they start, they chatting and that they fall in love. Yeah, they fall in love, which culminates in a very beautiful kiss scene in Macalania Woods, one of the most famous scenes in Final Fantasy because of how beautiful it is and how beautiful the song is. And Yuna's love for Tidus, excuse me, their love for each other as well is even a driving force in the second game, Final Fantasy X Part 2, where Yuna finds a sphere of Tidus after a sphere of Tidus, and goes on a journey to try and find him. Because at the end of Final Fantasy X, after at the end of Final Fantasy X, after they found out that Tidus is a dream, and they beat Sin, Tidus starts to disappear because he's part of the dream that Sin created, and he's fading away. He's fading away with dreams Anakin. And Yuna loves him so much that she tries to grab him, she tries to jump for him and hug him, but she falls straight through him. And it's a bittersweet moment where it shows how, even though love can hurt, it can be a very good storytelling element, because this is clearly a sad moment where, with Yuna having to say goodbye to Tidus throughout their journey, and they fall in love in that. And and Tidus disappears in that. But then, of course, like I said, in 10 Part 2, she finds a sphere of someone who looks like Tidus, and she goes to try and find him. She does eventually find him in the true ending of Final Fantasy X Part 2. But yeah, it's like that love for him makes her go on a journey that almost changes who she is. Like, she stops being the meek summoner. She stops being the meek, quiet, strong-willed summoner. She starts being more vocal, more energetic. And she goes on to see, and this love for Tidus makes her basically go on this journey and trying to find him. She discovers new things about Spira that she did before. I apologize, guys. Sorry. And so there's a lot of love for Tidus and Yuna in there. It's definitely a main drive. It's not a main driving force, but it's definitely something that affects both of their character growths. Because there's even a point where Yuna is basically forced to marry Seymour. Seymour. Yeah, Maester Seymour asks Yuna to marry him as a sign of not good faith, but a sign of resolve and strength among the people. Yuna, and of course, when they receive this news, they're obviously all her guardians are surprised. But Tidus is definitely shocked because you can tell he's jealous. He's jealous. He thinks Yuna loves Seymour, so he's not actually and he's very unsure. But again, and it shows that love can do a whole bunch of things. I've probably babbled this entire video because I've probably babbled. Hopefully you guys will have seen that I'm making sense. Hopefully, but yeah, it's definitely a good driving force in Ted. I apologize. I've just recently woken up because I've had to re-record this. And yeah, and it's not even that as well. And it's also a fact as well that love is also used in a way in Final Fantasy X where it's not obvious, where the characters don't express it with words, but you can tell by the actions. Like Tidus's dad, Jecht, who became Sin, who became Sin. When he was actually still human, he did love his son. He bullied him. He bullied his son. He called his son a crybaby. He put him down, but he did love his son, and you find out that this is all because he wanted his son to grow strong. He knew his son could be strong like him, so he knew, and he wanted to help his son grow strong, and and it shows that while he said, well, while he was, bullied for his actions, he was rude to Tidus, he put him down, he called him a crybaby. You could tell in his actions where, you could tell in the kind of the meaning behind the words that he did love his son, and you even find a sphere later in the game. You find a sphere late in the game that Jecht made along with it, went on his travels with Auron and Yuna's father Braska, and they see different sights. And at the end of the sphere, Jecht leaves a message for Tidus, and the last thing Jecht says is, "Well, I just want you to know, I this isn't me trying to get thinking. This is actually what he says. He says, I just want to tell, I just want you to know, I'm not good at these things. You know what I mean." And he hangs up the sphere. Like, and it's, obviously he doesn't say it, but you can tell full well. Like, if you really look at the sphere and the scene, you can tell full well what Jack is trying to say to Tidus. He is trying to say, I love you. He's trying to tell his son that he loves him. And even when Tidus finds out that, even when Tidus finds out that Jecht is Sin, at first he wants to defeat Sin just because he hates his old man. But once he journeys on a bit more and he finds out more about how Jecht basically wants to the cycle to end. He wants to die. Excuse me. Yeah, but when you find out later in the game, that Jecht wants he wants the cycle to end. He wants Sin to be defeated for good, and he basically brings Tidus to Spira because he knows that Tidus is strong enough to stop him. He knows that Tidus can become strong enough to stop him, to make it so he doesn't become Sin anymore, to free him from the eternal punishment, his punishment of being Sin. Well, not his punishment, but the hell that is being Sin. Because inside Sin, Jecht he's kind of suffering with not suffering, but he's stuck in the dream Xanakin that's inside Sin. And and Tidus, learning about Jecht's plight, he still constantly goes through the game saying, "Oh, I hate my old man. I hate my old man. My old man was a jerk." You can tell Tidus did love his dad. When he finds out, you can tell that when he finds out more about his dad, and his dad is Sin, you can tell that Tidus honestly does love his old man to the point where he is more than happy, like he is more than willing to basically to kill Jecht, basically to kill Sin and save Jecht from being Sin. And again, it's one of those things where love drives us in the series. Love drives the characters to do decisions that is hard for them, but they still keep on going. Excuse me. I'm going to skip over 11 and 12. No, 11, because I haven't played 11, so I don't really know much about 11. But 12, the only real sign of love I've seen in 12 is Ash and her husband. I forget his name. I forget her husband. Okay, sorry, I just did some more research to look it up and that. But yeah, the only account of love that I've really seen in Final Fantasy 12 that is clear to me was Ash, Princess Ash in the game. Princess Ash. She before the start of the game, in the game's prologue, she marries Lord Rasler. Yeah, she marries Rasler Hayos Nabradia. The prince of Nabradia. It's a political marriage, but they generally, honestly, do love for each other. You can see they generally do care for each other. Unfortunately, Rasler dies in the prologue as well. He gets killed in battle, unfortunately. But Ash's love for Rasler still remains throughout the game, to a point where she gets a certain magicite. I think it's called the Nephesite. I'm not sure. But she gets up that, and she sees a vision of Rasler, wondering what the hell it means. And and seeing that, seeing the image of her husband, her past husband, it strengthens her resolve in the fact that she said, she resolves that I need to stop Vane from doing what he's doing because Razzler would want me to. Razzler would want me to protect the people of the world from Vane's control. He would want me to save Rabanasta. He would want me to save Dalmasca, to save Ivalice from what Vane is trying to do. And it's again, it's another example of how they've Square Enix have used love in the series to propel a character forward, to give them resolve, to make them make the decision that they needed to make. And that's really the only one in 12 I've seen. There is a bit of love between Penelo and Vaughn, but they don't really do it. They actually don't do anything for the story. Like they do nothing for the story. They're kind of just there. Um, you could say there's love between Balfour and Fran, but I don't. I think it's more friendship and camaraderie there. Um, but yeah, 12 is a game that I haven't played as much. I've completed it, but I've not played it as much, so I haven't really been able to go in depth on it. Of course, we move on to 13 as well. Well, 13, there's a big obvious one. There's a big obvious one. A lot of people hate his character. I personally like him, but Snow and Sarah. Because, and again, another example of how Square Enix have used love to strengthen a character's resolve and make a character start to grow. Because at the start of the game, like before the start of the game, Snow and Sarah were, they were dating, and Snow did propose to Sarah. He proposed to Sarah. She said yes. But when she becomes repulsed to the sea, she tries to call it off, tries to tell him to go away, because she doesn't want to. She knows that she's going to be an enemy of Cocoon. But Snow loves her so much that he doesn't turn her away. He goes after her. He goes after her. He takes her by the hand and says, I'm with you. Doesn't matter what happens, I'm with you. And people can give Snow all the crap they want, but the fact that he chooses it, like he could very well walk away and go, nope, you're an enemy Cocoon. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with the trouble this will bring. No, he loves Sarah so much. He is resolute in staying by her side and seeing this thing through with her to protect her. To help her do her focus, do her mission at the as a sea. You know, even if it means destroying the entire world, he is resolved to help the woman he loves because he doesn't want to let her down. He doesn't want to leave her side. He loves her so much that he is loyal to her to the end. And and it goes to show as well, like, when they tell Lightning about the engagement and about them being Sarah being a C, despite the fact that Lightning is very hostile to Snow, she doesn't like him. Snow still sees her. He still has feelings for her. Like, he still sees her as a sister because he's engaged to Sarah. Despite the fact Lightning keeps telling him not to call her sis, he still does it. And because he honestly feels love for, like, a sisterly love for Lightning. And again, people complain about his character, but throughout the game, Snow shows how much he loves Sarah so much. Like, when she actually does do her focus and turns into crystal, she cries one last tear, which then crystallizes into a crystal tear. Snow keeps that tear throughout the entire game as a keepsake to remind himself of what he's doing. He's doing it all for Sarah. He's doing it all. He's going for this whole entire game so he can try and save Sarah. So he can try and save Sarah and try and bring her back and try and save her from her crystal state. Of course, he eventually does, but he then does eventually leave Sarah, not like break up the relationship. But when Lightning disappears at the end of Final Fantasy 13, Snow loves Sarah so much that he doesn't want to see her upset. He doesn't want to see her sad about her sister. So what he does is, because at this point everyone believes Lightning is dead. For some reason, everyone believes Lightning has died. Lightning died at the end of the game. At the end of 13. At the end of 13. Of course, Sarah knows the truth. She didn't die. Snow, he doesn't know which is the truth. But regardless, he still believe because he loves Sarah so much, he still believes in her, and he goes off on a journey to find Lightning. He goes off on a journey to find Lightning to bring her back to Sarah. He doesn't know where it's going to take him. He doesn't know what he's going to be up against, but he still goes on a journey to find Lightning just so he can see Sarah smile. And it's a very, again, it's Square Enix putting love in the game in a way that, in a way that Snow, it gives it gives him strength, because all he does, it gives him purpose, because all he does is just to see Sarah smile, to protect Sarah and the people he cares about, but mostly just to see, because he wants Sarah to smile. And it's a prime example of how the formula of love into a character can make a character's oh, excuse me, sorry, it can make a character's personality that much better, because again, with Snow, it's made him loyal. His love for Sarah makes him loyal, loyal to a fault. And yeah, and not even just that, it's not even just Sarah and Snow as well. You got Zaz. You got Zaz, the lovable, the lovable man with the afro that has a freaking app that has a chocobo chick living in his hair. The whole reason why Zaz is with Lightning and friends is because he was at the start of the game. He was part of the purge. Um, yeah, Zaz had a son called Daj. And what happened was Daj became a Pulsar C by accident. And Zaz basically got blackmailed by the Sanctum to do their bidding while they keep Daj safe. While they, he basically got blackmailed, not while they keep him safe, but while they basically try and use him against the enemies of Cocoon. And and the whole reason why Zaz is journeying is so he can just try and be with Daj again, so he can try and be with his son again, be with his little boy who he loves most in the world again. And it's, again, it goes back to what I said about how love can give a character purpose, and that's what they've done with Zaz. They've given him purpose by making him want to just want to be with his son again. And unfortunately, it does end up breaking. It can end up breaking your heart when you get to a part in the game where Zaz does meet up with Daj again, only for Daj to turn to Crystal, because it turns out Daj's focus, his mission as the sea, was to lure Zaz and Vanille to the Sanctum. Daj didn't know this. He just wanted to see his daddy. He didn't know that. He didn't know what his focus was. He had no knowledge of this. He just wanted to see his daddy. And it's another example of how love can be used for great storytelling, because it's great seeing Daj and Zaz again. You see them reunite and you think, yay, Zaz gets to see his kid again. But then you see Daj turn to Crystal and it's a very sad moment. It's a bittersweet moment, because like, yeah, he gets to see his son again, but his son is now turned to Crystal. And Daj doesn't even know why. Like, he doesn't even know what's going on. And it hurts Zaz to watch. But he carries on going through the game because he like Snow, he wants to rescue Daj from the crystal, and he wants to be with his son again. And so that love for his son drives him forward. So again, love can be, the way they use Square Enix use love in the series as, again, can be a big driving force of characters' goals. Like, a lot of people give 13 a lot of crap, but 13 honestly is a game there's a lot of love in it. There's a lot of love in it. And then of course you got 14. There's way too much love in Final Fantasy 14 for me to even be able to tell. But something that they have made players able to do is get married in the game, which is really nice and sweet. And I don't think that'll ever happen to me. Just saying, I don't think it'll ever happen to me. But yeah, it could be. It's a nice little thing, nice little touch, for at least for players to have that, a nice bit of love, in the game, even if it's between their characters. And then of course, there's 15, where again, 15, the love is one of the main driving forces of the game, because the whole reason Noctis is journeying in 15, the whole reason he's journeying is because he is going to see the woman he loves, who is going to be his wife, Luna Freya. his childhood friend who he has loved since they were kids. He's loved since they were kids. They've been arranged to be married since they were kids. And at first, it seems like he's not bothered about the wedding. He doesn't care. He's just doing it because he has to. He honestly does love Luna Freya. And the whole journey he goes through is because he wants to go and be with Luna Freya again. He doesn't show it, but he's excited not for the wedding, but just to see Luna Freya again. And that love is, yeah, yeah. He acts aloof. He acts like he's not bothered, but that love pushes him forward. Like with Daj and Zaz, however, though, it does bring heartbreak because about halfway through the game, Luna Freya does die before Noctis even gets to see her. So the next time he gets to see her is when she's dead. When she's dead, and he didn't even get to say hello to her after all these years. And again, it's another example of how Square Enix, because after this, Noctis goes apeshit. He goes apeshit. He goes nuts. Like his powers go haywire from his rage. Not haywire, but his powers get increased because of his rage. And he basically fights Leviathan. But it's again another example of how Square Enix has used love as a story point and a way to push the development of characters. Because after Luna Freya's death, Noctis does become a bit more serious. He becomes more serious. He takes things more seriously. He stops treating life like just a good time. He starts to realize, okay, I need to be serious about all this. If I'm going to be king one day, I need to be serious about this. And yeah, and his love for Luna Freya and his memory of Luna Freya keeps him going throughout the entire game, to the point where after they beat Arden at the end of the game, and Noctis gets absorbed into the crystal because which is what was going to happen anyway. The last thing we see of Noctis is he sat on his throne, and Luna Freya is sat at the foot of his throne with her head resting on his lap. They are together in the crystal. The king has his queen together in the crystal, and it's a very bittersweet moment of their love. Where their love, it took them on a journey, but they finally reunited, just not in the way they wanted. In the way they had to, but not in the way they wanted. And now they're together forever in the crystal. So again, Square Enix using love to really do a good story plot point, to progress the story forward, and to tug at to get the player invested in the story because of the love between Freya and Luna and Noctis. And yeah, it's honestly, that's the main real one. That's really the main real one. And it's also like Noctis's friends, Gladiolus, Ignis, and Prompto. They continue going through everything that goes on. They continue going with Noctis because not just because they're his King's Guard, not just because they're his Crown's Guard. I mean, they're his Crown's Guard, but because they all love him. They all love him. He is their brother. They all see him as a brother, as a friend, as a brother. I said that twice, but I know. And that love for them, they want to protect him. They want to stay by his side no matter what. And that is because of their love for him. And so, again, Square Enix using love to push characters forward and drive to drive them forward. Keep them going. To give them loyalty. And then, of course, we can move on. We move on to I'm going to move on to the last numbered installment. Well, no, not last one. The most recent numbered installment, because I'm not counting Rebirth as the most, obviously Rebirth, because it's connected to Final Fantasy 7. But the most recent numbered installment, Final Fantasy 16, that love also plays a very, very good part, a very big part in that game as well. Because you have Clive and his love for his brother Joshua. Now, Clive adores his brother Joshua. Like, at the start of the game, you find out that, instead of Clive getting the mark of the Phoenix, the blessing of the Phoenix, like he should have done as being the firstborn, it passed to Joshua. But Clive, because he loves his little brother, he doesn't feel bitter. He doesn't feel jealous. He just says, "Then I will be my brother's shield. I will be the shield that protects my brother." And it's through this love that he has a laugh with Joshua. He bonds with Joshua. He doesn't hold any ill will to him. he has nothing but love for his little brother. And this love, and Square Enix used this love to really drive to really create Clive's character, because not long after the start of the game, the Phoenix Gate is attacked by a fiery icon, Ifrit, and Clive, he's watching this from inside Ifrit because it is him. He is Ifrit. But at this time, he doesn't know it. And he sees Joshua, aka the Phoenix, get killed. And his love for Joshua, like makes his heart break in this moment, because he's seen the little brother that he adores and that he loves, basically killed before his eyes. And the scream he lets out is such a guttural scream of pain and anguish and fury and heartbreak. The fact where his only remaining family that he actually loves, because he doesn't love his mother. He doesn't love his mother. His mother is always a bitch to him. Like, he didn't love his mother. He loved his father, but his father got killed during the Phoenix Gate assault. But the last member of his family who he actually loved, that he loved and cherished, killed before his eyes. And it's that, and his love for Joshua is what drives Clive's adventure forward, because he is resolved to find the fiery icon Ifrit and kill the dominant of fire, who it is, not realizing that it was really him. And when Clive does find out that he was Ifrit, that he was the dominant that killed the Phoenix, he has such anguish. He has such anguish and guilt that he thinks about thinking that he killed his only, killed the last member of his family, like the last blood member of his family. He feels such anguish and guilt at it, that he literally demands the Sid of that game to just end it, to just kill him. He straight up wants an execution of himself, because he thinks he killed his little brother who he loved more than anything. And again, this love helps shape Clive's character, because all he done is he goes through the game trying to get revenge for Joshua, the brother he didn't know he killed. Of course, he does end up meeting Joshua again, and Clive as soon as he starts meeting Joshua, Clive is more happy again. He's more happy, he's more lighthearted again, because he knows that his brother is back. He's got his brother back again, and it's a really nice heartfelt moment. And then, of course, I turn to the most obvious example of love in 16, Clive and Jill. Childhood friends, of course. They start with childhood friends, and there's something there. There's that crush. That Jill's clearly got a crush on Clive when they're kids, but she doesn't say anything because they're childhood friends. They're basically siblings at that point. But then when they meet years later, it's as enemies, not realizing who each other is. Clive, saves Jill. He takes her back to the hideout he's staying out with Sid, and Jill obviously joins Clive because she's missed him and that. But as they go through the game, go through their adventures, you can see the sparks of love are forming between them. With their awkward little moments and their little moments where they bond and that. You can see the sparks of love drawing, but neither of them really say anything. I'm mostly because they don't want to make any awkward moments between them. They don't want any awkwardness between them. But it all comes to a headway where they end up at the bottom of the ocean after Odin splits the ocean. They end up on this little sandbar and that, and it's there where they're both naked and that, because their clothes are wet. They let them dry out, and where they finally realize their love for each other, and they kiss, and I'm assuming doing more. And it's in that moment where they realize they love each other. It's where they realize they love each other. And this love helps them. It helps steel their resolve, because they know that they've got each other. They have each other's back. They can be strong for each other. They can keep going for each other. And again, it's another example of how love drives the characters forward and makes them go, right, I need to do this because I love so and so, because I have this love for so and so. And even at the end of the game, where Clive goes on to face Ultima with Joshua and Torgal, Jill gets left behind, and when Clive doesn't come back, Jill's love for him, like she knows full well that he wasn't going to come back. Um, but Jill's love for him, like, you can see that while she's being strong, it breaks her heart. And again, it makes for a very great story point. It makes for a very great story point and a very great ending as well. But yeah, it's definitely why Square Enix have definitely done very well with putting love in the series. In all the ways that I've spoken about, Square Enix have definitely done very well putting love into the series. I think I've pretty much covered everything I wanted to speak about Love in the series. Hopefully I've made sense. Hopefully I haven't just rambled. Hopefully hopefully any of you viewers will want to try more of the Final Fantasy games now, to see these scenes of love, to see these signs of love that I've spoken about. Who knows? Hopefully you guys will check it out. But yes, guys, in the meantime, I hope you guys will join me for my next episode on the 4th of March, where me and two of my friends are going to be talking about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. We're going to be talking about Rebirth. We're going to be talking about how it's changed from the original, how it's different from the original. We're going to talking about, the things that Rebirth has done, like, the things they did with Rebirth, how the impact it's made in the series. We're going to talk about, theories about it, what we think may happen next in part 3, and we're also going to talk about how we think Rebirth has changed the series because of its inclusion. So hopefully you guys will join me for that one next month. Hopefully you guys will join me. Well, I say next month, but I'm re-recording this, but either way, I hope you guys will join me on the 4th of March. But hopefully, guys, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this depth into love in Final Fantasy. Hopefully you guys will keep your love flowing, whichever it may be: brotherly love, friendship love, familiar love, romantic love, platonic. I don't know, but keep that love going, guys. Keep it flowing, and let that love help you grow, just like these characters in Square Enix have done it. But thank you for watching, guys. I hope you will, please, if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a like and subscribe, and and comment if you wish as well. I would love to hear people's feedback. But yeah, I hope you guys have. I hope those watching. I hope obviously watching this in the future. I hope you have a great whatever day it is. And all I can say is, guys, is may you ever walk in the light of the crystals. Take care, everyone, and thank you for watching.